And John, you flipping thing.
What?
Your video.
I didn't do anything.
I don't know, man. I think this is the last time we use this OBS. I'm just have to suck it up and reconfigure the other one again. All right. Retweets. Retweets. Alrighty. All right. This time with the right title. Oh, you're gonna absolutely kill me, man.
Hmm.
it would be. I'd be killing you if I did something, but I didn't do anything.
No, I know. I know it's not you. It's this crappy ass software. Oh
But
my gosh.
how can it be crappy ass software if everybody uses it? That's what I don't understand.
You know, I don't know. Hey, Oscar just subscribed. Hey, Oscar. All right.
Well,
All right.
how did you do that? What is that?
This is why I switched over to Streamlabs. It's a plugin Streamlabs have, and it just whenever somebody subscribes to one of our channels, it pops it up like that.
I
So,
see that on a bunch of Rocket League
mhm.
streamers.
Yeah, I think I can do it on the other OBS. Again, that's one of the things I just have to suck up and reconfigure. I've just been procrastinating on it. Okay, I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna try something new, I guess. Just kind of dive into it and not do the whole intro thing and see how that works for us. All right, we all ready? Okay,
Sure.
Thomas, you're weirding me out, man. You are like spookily quiet. I don't know. All right, you're listening to episode 194 of PHP Ugly. I'm your host Eric, and with me tonight are my friends John and Tom. Hey guys.
Hello.
What happened to our intro that we paid for? I'm confused.
Oh, I'm not going to do that live every show. I end up
Yeah,
I
he's
end up
had too
doing it
many
in
technical
post.
difficulties this show already.
Yeah.
Don't push
Well,
him to over the edge.
but why not? It's so easy to hit the button. Hit the button.
Because the sound quality isn't as good when I do it in the sound quality in post is so much better. So I just add it in post. So I'll now get me when you play it. Let's see
No.
what happened. I
Oh,
hit to play it and it's not even playing. Oh, that's right. I moved the files around. Shoot.
Uh,
I'm having a bad day at this, man. I'm telling you. All right. 194, gentlemen. How's everybody doing? We're one step closer. Let's do this one more time. One more time from the beginning, as Spider-Man would say.
we are we are having fun with OBS.
I hate
Did you
OBS.
do the whole edit transform to only fit the size you need?
Didn't we look for that once? Here, let me try again. See. You said edit. See, what is it? Edit transform. What transform?
Yeah,
Edit transform.
and only fit the size you need. And
And yeah, see, that's not in this one. This is the problem we had before, where the same. Jesus, you are off the reservation here, John. You are off the reservation. So this is why I want to switch back to the other OBS. Our audio podcasters are not appreciating what this mess of a podcast we're having right now. But it is John's stream. If you watch the live stream, or even if you don't, come back and watch this one. John's video is just going ballistic on us. He just he
we,
just. I already have
you
you in the
know,
middle of the screen, John. I mean, I can't give you much more attention. You don't need to keep resizing.
I wonder if it has to do with my bandwidth. We were out today celebrating my son's 6th birthday, and we took a ton of pictures. So I wonder if it's Dropbox like uploading pictures, eating bandwidth, and then pausing for
Freeing
whatever
it up.
reason, and then right. So maybe
Maybe it's a setting we can fix in Skype, like have it not automatically try to optimize the video or something. I don't know. I don't think it's something we should figure out today, right now. You know,
Yeah,
because we're trying to do a show and everything. I don't know how you feel about that.
we are.
How's
Hi.
everybody? Thomas, you got the new clean-shaven villain look going on, the little goatee? Or is that a goatee? I forget. I know there are proper terms now.
Yeah, it's a little long for a goatee, but yeah, it's sort of the villain from Flash look.
Yes. Yes, you're right. Absolutely, you're right.
Yeah, I woke up one morning. The first thing my wife said to me was, "So you got drunk and tried to shave, huh?" And I
Was she right?
said, "Oh yeah, I did." I had managed to mangle the beard portion of the beard enough that I had to shave it completely. So now I just have this sort of evil spike my thing now. But this also came because where I live, things are getting a lot looser with the corona restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Our infections are super low, and they've opened a lot of stuff up. And I had a friend's birthday, and we went out, and I looked around the bar and realized I wasn't as original as I thought I was anymore, and that every guy in the bar had the exact same beard look as I did. So time to change it up a little. It's been 10 years.
Mm. Oh man, John, Dropbox has changed their layout, and now I can't figure out how to pause syncing in Dropbox.
It's in the top right.
Help me.
Click on your picture.
Yeah.
Oh, hey,
Sync.
it's not there anymore.
No.
Oh,
It's not there.
bottom left. Bottom left. Does it say up to date? Hover
Yeah.
over it.
Oh, got it.
Can you
Got
just
it.
turn it
Thanks.
off?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well-
Now, see, I have to pause. I don't usually have to pause Dropbox because I've got a nice fast connection here, but my dog decided to chew through the Ethernet cable that was running from my router to my work machines. So I am now running on Wi-Fi.
He was just inspecting the crossover and make sure it was
Full
the
crossed
twisted
over.
pairs. Make
They're-
sure the twisted pairs were actually twisted.
Yeah, they're thoroughly untwisted now.
So I had a pretty exciting week. I know I normally ask you guys how your week went.
How was your week, Eric?
I had a super exciting week.
Why is that?
I did a interview for the Community Corner article for PHP Architect. I did the interview with the two release managers for PHP 8, Sarah and Gabriel. I think that was his name, Gabriel. And I tell you what, it was such a fun interview. I'm trying to convince Oscar to let me. I recorded it. I hadn't planned on doing it as a podcast. And as a matter of fact, I was in a meeting with John right before I had to get on a call do the interview with them, and my system decided it had to reboot. I mean, it's like everything was wigging out, so I went ahead and rebooted it, and it wouldn't come up. It took like 30 minutes for it to install the updates and come up, so I actually ended up interviewing them from my iPad. And even Sarah, she has like a podcast mic as well, and she wasn't even using it because it was just like a casual interview for me to write up the article. But I'm trying to convince Oscar to let me edit it and see how the quality is and maybe release it in the future as a potential podcast, because it just spun. We went everywhere with the conversation. It was such a fun conversation, and it was just. I can't wait to write up the article. And if you don't subscribe to PHP Architect, you really should think about picking up a subscription. But I can't wait to write up this article. But I really hope I can get this edited together, because I don't know if we can do the interview again and have it be as just spontaneous and just kind of free flowing as it was this week, because it was so much fun. And it was just filled with so much information. I mean, from the stuff you obviously we talked about challenges with, you know, managing the releases of PHP. You know, clearly we talked about that, but we just talked about PHP and developers and development and just the whole spectrum of just stuff that I like talk about. And there was like no question. There was no question that they weren't willing to tackle. Like, I've interviewed people, and there have been questions that like, I'm going to pass on that question. I'm not really interested in answering it. I'm like, okay, that's fair. This didn't matter. Any question I had, anything we talked about, it was open. And the big one. So the one that I thought they would pass on and they didn't, at least Sarah didn't. Gabriel's pretty new to. Matter of fact, he was surprisingly new to PHP. But as a release manager, this is kind of his first big role. I mean, he's been contributing to internals for a while now, but this is his big thing. But for Sarah, I asked, like, a lot of people shy. Like, I was talking to her as the person I am, I'm just a normal person in the PHP community. I mean, I'm not
Slightly
sugarcoating this for you.
abrasive.
A little, yeah. Been told I have attitude and, carry my emotions on my sleeve. I'm not going to say John said that, but people have said that. John specifically. And so I told her, I'm like, there's this perception in the community that internals can be a toxic environment. Like, there's very toxic and aggressive conversations going on there. To Sarah's defense, or to Sarah's credit, that is the question that I've never been able to get answered for. Like, people normally just pass on. They're like, hey, I'm not going to comment on that, and I can see why. She had no problem commenting on it.
Was it a question or was it a statement?
The question is, I phrased it like, in the general PHP community, it's the internals has been perceived as a toxic environment. What would you tell people about that? And do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? And she was very frank. I don't remember her exact answer, but it was a fantastic answer. And I do believe she acknowledged. She was like, there was a time, when it is, and we've talked about it in the past as well. It's like this, especially for the people for internals, this is not a hobby. This is a passion. This is their art form, and artists get passionate and can get heated about conversations of their art form. So that does transpire, and she I'm pretty sure she kind of acknowledges that. I have to go back through the transcript, but the way she phrases it, and I told her, I'm like, I'm going to have to put that in the article, because the way you responded to that was just so fantastic. I really think that needs to be shared. So it'll be in the article, but the way she phrased it was like, made me feel good. It's like, she's like, yes, it's not toxic. It gets very passionate, but there's enough people there to put things in check. And she's like, we've acknowledged that conversations have got, and again, don't quote me on this because I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but she kind of acknowledges like, conversations have gotten off track, sort of thing, and we try to do a better job at wrangling those in now. Like I said, you got to read the article by next month's PHP Architect, because this community corner, I'm very excited. I hope I do the conversation justice. And if I don't, I hope Oscar lets me release the podcast, because Sarah, both of them, Gabriel and Sarah, fantastic people to talk to. I mean, I was just blown away how I felt so relaxed talking to them. Just great people. I'm so happy that they're on internals, that they're people developing PHP. We also talked about, I asked her about, you know, we go on a lot about enterprise. And I asked her opinion on if she felt that it was a hindrance to PHP not to have a strong enterprise name behind it like Zen. And I shared with her that Zen was the reason why I was able to introduce PHP in the enterprise I worked in. Because again, they checked a lot of those boxes that we talk about in the enterprise: SLAs, training, support, blah, 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 blah. And, she acknowledges it. She's like, yeah, how that's handled. And she says, there are other companies out there that are doing that support, that enterprise level support, but maybe none that have that name that Zen carried. And she had a really good discussion about that. Again, I don't remember exactly how she worded it. Just, you want to read this article. This is a good article. I was excited. I couldn't wait to share that with you guys. I was very excited about it.
I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure Oscar's going to release that as the podcast interview next month. If it's half as good as you're making it sound, he's gonna have to let you.
We flat out, and obviously a lot of this would be cut out because a lot of it was just breaks and stuff. We flat out talked for 2 straight hours, and I was the one that had to end the conversation because I had another meeting I had to go to. I'm like, I am so sorry. I could keep talking to you. Gabriel was over in Amsterdam, so it was like 7, 8 o'clock for him at night, and like I said, we'd been talking for 2 hours and had no signs of letting up.
Yeah, they got off the call saying that asshole kept us for 2 hours.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, you're on this high and they're like pissed off about it.
He kept them on the line so long that they ended up delaying alpha another week. PHP 8.
We actually had that conversation while we were talking to them. They were talking about it. They're like, hey, by the way, I think we need to delay this. And her and Gabriel, because they are the release managers, they were talking through it. And she's like, okay, Eric, you have the inside track. I'm like, you really need to tweet that out like soon, because if you don't, I will.
I'll vomit it out on the internet.
So yeah, it was. I so totally enjoyed it. And they both inspired me so much to want to get involved with internals. I told her, I'm like, I watch the internals conversations go on. I even talked about that externals IO, which Sarah was familiar with, and. I told her, I'm like, I'm always watching the conversation, but I never know how to participate. And Sarah even had a great comment on that, something about, if you want change, you have to participate. Like, you can't complain about PHP if you're not participating in its development. And if you want something changed, you have to participate.
That's a rough take. There's most of the criticism I see about people in PHP is not participants.
And it's so funny. Sarah's the second internals person I talk to who doesn't code in PHP anymore. She will freely admit, I haven't coded in PHP in years.
That makes sense, though. I mean, if you're in internals, you're writing in C.
C and C++, yeah. And we even touched on that. I'm like, do you ever feel like there's a disconnect from what the PHP community wants and what you're doing in internals? And she elaborated on that. She's like, yes, there probably is a disconnect. Because we're looking at what other languages are doing and how they're handling stuff and how we can apply it to PHP. But occasionally, or not occasionally, but there's a disconnect of. And the example I used is, do you guys ever look at all the frameworks and say, okay, all the frameworks in WordPress, and they all use some sort of and I'm just making this up. I'm off the cuff trying to think of something. They use some sort of array helper, array to slug or something. Shit, I don't know. I'm making something up. I'm like, do you guys ever look at the helpers and the things these frameworks are doing and say, okay, there's enough people doing this. Maybe we should look at bringing it into core. And, she's like, not really, not typically. And it was just such a good conversation. I can't even begin to explain to you. I don't even know how much of it I'm going to get into the article.
Yeah, most of the stuff that goes in the core comes from RFCs, though, right? Where people, it's not the core developers saying, "Hey, we need to implement this." It's somebody else saying, "Hey, we want this," and then they make it happen.
Right. Yeah. That's how a lot of it gets in there. And she talks about that process as well. So, but yeah, we talked about PHP 6 and how that so severely impacted the progress of PHP 5, because I was speaking with her. I'm like, hey, we have these long delays with releases in PHP 5, and now with PHP 7, it's bang, 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 and here you are, you guys are getting ready to release 8. And she's like, that was never meant to happen. And again, I don't want to put words in her mouth. She says it so much better, but they started focusing on PHP 6, and they really committed to PHP 6, and it really impacted the progress of 5. And then they turned around and didn't use 6. And she even says, 6 is actually a very pivotal time in PHP development, because even though it never really became a thing, it really had us change how we were doing things and how we were releasing things and how we were focusing on stuff. And PHP 6 actually contributed to the PHP development a lot more than people realize, not from a code perspective, although there was a lot of code, but a lot of the process and how they handled things. And it was such an enlightening conversation. I'm telling you.
Fascinating.
I hope I do this article. Yeah, I hope I do the article well, because I'm very excited about it.
Can't tell.
Well, Oscar says he's convinced. So
I'm not even looking at. Is Oscar with us?
Of course.
I'm not seeing. Where's he at? Discord?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing Discord pop up on stream. I broke something.
You broke everything.
I'm done doing this. Oscar!
So, the news that was posted yesterday after your big interview was that they are dropping RC6. They're pushing the current branch forward a week, and they're back a week, and they're pushing the general release forward a week. So, November 26th is the day to look forward to for PHP 8.
Mm-hmm.
This week's a big week for PHP.
Why? Oh yes, you're absolutely right. Do explain.
It's the 25th anniversary of the first 1.0 announcement from Rasmus of PHP, Personal Homepage Tools.
Yep, that's absolutely right. We had a birthday. We had a PHP birthday. Do you have a card for that by chance?
No. Why would I have a card for something I'm going to talk about on the podcast?
Actually, I have the original post that Rasmus put up. Here, I'll share it on the stream, even though my video is all jacked up. But yeah, let me make this bigger for everybody so it's easier to read. If I can, jeez, I don't know. I tell you. Oh, there, that's working. Yeah. So yeah, this is Rasmus' original post back in 25 years ago, actually. Yeah. Announcing the release of his personal homepage tools, PHP Tools version 1. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It feels so much older than 25 years, but I guess 25 years in our industry is pretty old.
It feels like I've been programming in it for 25 years.
Right? That's how I feel.
How long have you been in it?
Uh,
When
18
did you?
years.
So
I've been in
2002 is when you got when you started coding professionally. Like you got paid to code.
Yeah.
so I want to say I got involved. Oh yeah, no, when I got paid to code was from you, John. That was the first time I was ever paid to code.
You were in DevOps before, so you coded, but you weren't a coder, huh? Is that
I wasn't a developer. Yeah.
gotcha?
DevOps existed back then?
Oh, hey, easy. Yeah, it existed.
I was
Yeah,
just
we
wondering.
invented it. I still remember how I stumbled into PHP, and I want to say, like, I remember I looked at this before and the dates didn't line up, but I want to say I got on the tail end of 3 when 4 was being released. And it was around 2000 because I remember the whole Y2K thing being discussed. And but I remember looking back and thinking those dates weren't lining up. So it might have been a couple years before that. But I remember I started looking at it when it was 3, and then somebody said, no, wait, they're getting ready to release 4, a lot's going to change. And so I waited, and I actually wasn't even trying to get into PHP. I was getting into MySQL. I was looking for a database, a free database I could store information in, because I didn't want to pay for Microsoft MS SQL. And I found MySQL, so I was working with that, and I was trying to understand how to extract that data out of MySQL. And I found a free a free adult learning, extended learning class for PHP and MySQL. I'm like, not sure what PHP is, but they're teaching MySQL, so let me just go and learn about MySQL. And everything changed after that.
It wasn't Microsoft MS SQL, was it? Wasn't there an actual MS SQL? That was a It was free,
Yeah,
Yeah, the
open source,
MS
just like
no, the MS stands for Microsoft.
yeah. No, it's Microsoft SQL. I believe that it's one and the same.
Yeah.
no, no, no,
Yes.
No?
no.
I'm
I
I I'm an MCSE.
okay. M there was an MS SQL that was not Microsoft.
Oh, I didn't know that. I was so
I could be
to
making
tell
that up,
you
but I'm pretty sure.
to tell you where I was at in this time frame. I was using Access to store data, and what I wanted to do with my data, everybody kept saying, well, okay, you don't want to use Access anymore. You want to put it in a relational database, so just go to
Oh
Microsoft
God.
SQL.
Boy, I remember
That's
those.
what,
I had a boss who wanted me to write everything into Access.
Uh,
right?
Oh
I
Yeah,
boy.
I did a lot of Access work back in the
yeah.
A lot of
late
headaches.
90s.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, everybody kept saying, all right, you want to graduate to Microsoft SQL. If it's not MS SQL, it was Microsoft SQL. And I was looking at the licensing fee. I'm like, my company is never going to pay for this. So that's also what introduced me to open source. Is looking into alternatives to this Microsoft SQL solution, and stumbled upon MySQL, and open source and PHP changed my world from that day on.
Wow, and Access still exists.
Does it really? Is it
Still.
still a Microsoft product?
It's part of the Microsoft 365 suite.
No kidding.
So for people who don't know, Microsoft Access is basically a power user version of Excel, where you
Right.
you
Let's
get
give
some sort of API style access to your spreadsheets, and your spreadsheets can communicate amongst each other a little bit better. Um, and there's like a scripting
Yeah.
language in it.
And there were forms you could build on top of it too, not necessarily
Right.
Mm-hmm.
within Excel.
Yeah,
Is
you
that
didn't have to use Excel.
yeah? 'Cause
Well, but it's the
that's how I
way
used it was forms.
the way it
Mm-hmm.
manages the data sets though is the same as Excel, where it's just a spreadsheet of data. There was no relational information at all. It was just rows and columns.
I could have sworn there was some sort of relational.
I can't
There
remember.
was a relationship. Yeah, it's been so long. I don't remember either.
Hey, I'll install it right now, baby.
Please don't. I mean, feel free. I don't care. Who am I to judge? So yeah, I had an exciting week, man. I can't lie. I just love this industry so much. I know I say this all the time. I'll get off my soapbox, but this is fun. It's a fun time in my life, man. I've enjoyed the last 10 years have been probably the best professionally the best 10 years of my life. I started doing what I loved doing, what I was passionate about. I started making money. I was able to create a company with John, the DiegoDev Group, and I haven't looked back. I mean, it's had its ups and downs, but God, I do love this.
Well, you're on a high, and I've been on a low for a week or two. Just going back into just feeling like I don't know what I'm doing at times. I'm working with other people that are on their game, and I'm just not contributing, and just feeling imposter syndrome. Like I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be here right now. I'm way out of my league.
I hit that last week too. Hard.
It's rough.
It is because there's so much. I mean, I was going through this process of not to step on John's story, but I was going through this process of like looking at my career and my skill set and what jobs are out there and what, the next 10 or 15 years is going to look like for me. And I kind of just went, fuck it. I'm fine. I'm not even going to try. This is crazy. There's so much focus on like Node and Vue and like all these languages I'm not great enough at to say I'm an expert. And I don't have the opportunity to become an expert because it's not something I do at work. And then, all of going back to really old stuff, design patterns and solid design, and looking at the code I'm producing, and I'm like, this is not up to snuff. Nothing is, I know that the fact that I know something's wrong means I'm better off than I think.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's, writing tests and like reading through the PHP unit documentation and like test doubles for what? I have nothing to double. All I have are these heavyweight controllers that sumo wrestle each other around. Like. So it's just there's so much of this practical information I feel like I'm missing, and to move my career forward, I have to take 10 steps back and be like, yeah, I just PHP for 20 years just never really got into testing. Like, that's what a horrible thing to say in an interview.
That's totally me. I know testing is one of my weak points. I know we had a topic come up this week, which to me seemed super simple, but I didn't know enough of Vue and JavaScript to give them enough direction, which I really felt guilty about. On the one hand, I felt really guilty about it. On the other hand, as I shared with John, I'm like, I don't know why we're paying people to know this stuff when this seems to be still an issue for us to solve. But I don't know. I've accepted some of those limitations, but I've got to get better at it, especially the stuff that's PHP specific. Like the Vue stuff, I still justify in my head. I'm like, that's still JavaScript. Like, I'm trying to get it, but I don't care enough about it. I'm not passionate enough about it to dive that much into it. But the testing in the PHP world, I have no excuses for not doing it, and I still don't do it. And I still, like, John's gotten into the whole test-driven development, and I still can't get there.
TDD is hard in itself, but still going back and writing tests, I'm getting better at. If I don't sit down and do TDD first, I am much better at writing the code and then also adding tests and trying to make sure I've covered all my edge cases. We have a contract at work. We've got not a new client. We've had them now for about 3 months, and the developers on that have really done a good job at testing. and they haven't done a lot of testing in the past, and they're just raving about how it's changed their outlook and how they are doing things. Feeling that it's made them a better developer. I think we've talked about this on a few episodes now. But on a side note to that, Eric and I had a call with that same client, and the client is really happy with us, which is great. And Eric and I are like, did we do something wrong? We have a happy client, because we've had a lot of flops. And I haven't shared this with you, Eric, but I started thinking about it afterwards, and I think we are doing ourselves a disservice by thinking that way, because we've had a lot of successes in our development for clients where the clients have either failed or moved on, and we've kind of forgotten about them. You know, we've had great work with a client where they were self-funding their product and they ran out of funds. It had nothing to do with us. They stopped developing. We had another one. The other one, unfortunately, was a WordPress project, but same thing. Very happy with us. They launched, it didn't do what they thought it would do, and they stopped. Another one where a financial firm, we developed the core of it, and then they brought it in-house. Another success. We don't give ourselves enough credit for we don't give ourselves enough credit for the successes, because the flops where we have unhappy clients just they shine this huge it's this big spotlight, like you feel so horrible, and that's all you think about.
You know what's so funny about that, John? If you think back on all those projects, especially our successes and our flops, what I shared with you this week really applies to those. All of our successes, including this latest customer that I can think of now that you've called them out, have all been projects where the customer didn't try to dictate our workflow. They didn't try to come in and disrupt our patterns and how we were doing things. And like this last,
they gave us the problem and let us solve it.
Yep, this last client did exactly what John just said. Just said, "Hey, this is what I want done," and totally stayed out of our way. We did full transparency with them. We gave them all the access that they needed. And hey, thanks, Hannah, for following us. We gave them all the transparency and access that they needed to see what we're doing. And always said, if you have questions, reach out to us. But didn't try to interject like their project management style. And all of our biggest
didn't twist our arm into doing certain things first that that we felt were out of order.
Yep.
Those
are our successes.
Yeah. We just had a call with them this week, and we made a focus on doing the hard stuff first. Unfortunately, the hard stuff is not UI. So there's nothing to show the client outside of tests that we are working, or show them the code. Hey, we are working on it. So many clients want to see that UI, but to me, it's like, let us get the hard stuff done. Let's figure out how this works on the back end. And then build from there.
That seems to be the biggest leap of faith for a client. And we've had clients who basically said, no, I need to see it first. You can't, and have flat out told us, you can't design the back end until you know what the front end looks like. And John and I are like, no, that's completely reverse. You can't design the front end until you know what the back end looks like. Let us do that first. And even this current client shared with us, they were like, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand you wanting to do the back end before the front end, because I couldn't in my head figure out how that worked. And
he's also a hobbyist developer, so he's used to getting the front end piece done and then figuring out how to make the back end work from that.
Yeah. But he was excited when he saw the end product, and he saw the front end. I mean, by now we have a front end on it, and he was was thrilled. So yeah, we've got to we've got to be more firm with new clients of, hey, you either follow our style or you find somebody else, because it's whenever we try to accommodate these other workflows, these other project management processes,
Things
it
fall
never works
apart.
out well for us. Yep.
That is your
next week's
business
episode.
insight section of the show.
Next week's episode. So we were wrong about demanding our own workflow.
And that client is now suing us, and he is a lawyer, by the way. Hey, John, let's go ahead.
No. Mine was just air, just filler. You have something honest.
I do. Because we're talking about frustrations and stuff. This is what made me think of it. And I shared some of it with you guys earlier. You have the same keyboard I have. It's Advantage 2. Are you still using it?
I am.
For God, I hope stream, you guys are still using it. Those things are expensive.
Extremely ergonomic keyboard. So if you can find out more about it last episode if you don't know what we're talking about. I am at a stage with this, so I have officially been using it. I got this keyboard Tuesday last week, so I've been using it just over a week now, and I'm officially at a stage where my frustration is growing exponentially, because I've figured out enough of the stuff where I've gotten comfortable with the keyboard. Even things like the thing I struggled with a lot was using the shift keys. And I'm getting my pinkies accustomed to working now, which they weren't working. But the bad habits I carried into using this keyboard, the ones that I have left, are so overwhelming that I'm in this constant battle now of trying to break myself from these last bad habits. And it's getting so frustrating. How's your progress with it?
Horrible. I actually signed up for an online how to type software or online resource. So I've actually gone back to typing school to learn how to type properly so that I can use this thing.
Yeah, I should probably do that. How's that going for you?
Good and bad. It does the whole words per minute and all that, so I find myself competing against that, trying to type fast, and instead of slowing down and relearn how to type, learn how to type properly, not how to just hack at a keyboard, which is what I've been doing for 20, 30, 40 years now. So I'm getting much better at just normal words typing, but when it comes to coding, still getting my arrows and fat arrows and all of those pieces, and the keyboard shortcuts that I use in PHP Storm just are so completely different now. It's taking a lot to get used to.
Yeah, the shortcuts are still a struggle. Yeah, the shortcuts are still a struggle very much. I told you that the two big key remaps I did is cap locks is now control for me. And the delete key I actually remapped to the Apple key, because that was easier for me to do copy paste delete. So the XCV, holding down the delete key and hitting those was a whole lot simpler. So I remapped that, and it was because of you. The tap and long tap. So I remapped my N key to be the forward delete. So if I tap the N key, it does the forward delete, or if I hold the N key, it just does whatever an N key does, and I never use that. So I wanted to have it there just in case I needed it, but I never use it. So
I'll use that in web pages or something to quickly get to the end of a.
I have Vim for that. It's just a uppercase G. It drops right down to the bottom of the page. You got to use that. Thomas, you'll appreciate this. You make fun of the fact that I have the Vim plugin in my browser. I told John this week I actually enabled the Vim bindings to my command line. so I can actually use Vim movements and things like that in my command line. And I have no idea why I've never done this in the past. I love this. No? No comment from you, Tom?
Oh, I'm sorry, my microphone.
Yeah.
No, like the Vim thing, man. It's like I don't get it. I don't get it at all.
I mean, if you're interested,
you don't get it because
I'd
you
love
don't.
to show you.
You don't get it because you don't use it. That's one of the cornerstones to my coding, but it's also one of the big things that led to my bad typing habits.
Oh.
What you think? Oh, because you were using HJKL as your home row.
Right. So where I always rested my fingers. So now, like, I'm constantly trying to go left, and I'm hitting J, and I'm going down. I'm like, no, it's just not right.
Well, and you know what the worst part about this is I make fun of you, and of course, I have a massive arthritis flea today, and I'm just in pain all day.
I don't think Vim would help with that. I think it'd probably make it worse.
No, I mean a keyboard. The Ergo
Oh, the
keyboard
keyboard
that
would
you guys
probably
paid
help
like
with it. Yeah.
yeah, you paid like $800 for.
John, are you like me? Like I've been like this for years. It's why I have Vim in so many places. But now it's like the idea of reaching over to the mouse is like really starting to aggravate me because my hands get so comfortable on the keyboard. I get in especially when I get into a groove. And I'm like, oh shit, I need to touch the mouse now.
You need to put some Vim bindings on your mouse so that when you move to your mouse, you've still got some Vim productivity there.
I almost do wish that the keyboard had like in between the thumb buttons like a trackpad or something.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Or just somewhere around here.
Yeah,
so you don't have to move as far.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I would actually.
Or like the IBM nipple.
No, like even like a pad that's on the iMac. Just have that like right here in the middle. That would be fantastic, actually. That's a great idea, John.
Yeah.
I think I know what our next business venture is. GoFundMe. Or no, wait, what is it? It's not GoFundMe. What's the Kickstarter? That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, now I'm getting so comfortable. Keep my hands there. Yeah, that. Plus, I've been having right shoulder pain for the past like 6-8 weeks anyway. It's not good. So that extra movement over there is noticed.
Yeah. So Thomas, I did have a question for you.
Yeah, fire away.
And if you haven't heard it or don't know anything about it, that's fine. I'm not backing you in a corner or anything. But did you see the cards that I had on my Trello board about Amazon and IBM?
I did.
Have you heard about this?
Yeah. Bezos is a huge asshole, and IBM isn't.
Well, no. All right, maybe you don't. Why did you say that?
So IBM announced that they're abandoning facial recognition products completely.
Yes. I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Amazon's like, hey, us too, for a year.
Right. IBM is just pausing it. So yeah, that's fair. I see what you're saying. Well, but
yeah, so Amazon's just putting it on hold for a little bit. IBM is like, oh no, it's fundamentally racist. Like, we're not going to do that.
So to be fair, Amazon actually had a service that it offered to police departments for facial recognition. So this was an active service that they had that they've now, like Thomas said, basically paused for the next year. They're like, okay, this service is no longer available. We're stopping the service. We're reevaluating facial recognition, the ethics behind it, our responsibilities behind it, and I thought it was a good thing. And again,
it's not. I would even go so far as to say it's a bad thing.
And to Thomas's point, IBM actually didn't really one up them because they, as far as I know, they didn't have a service they were offering to police forces. But IBM stepped in and said, we're not only stopping facial recognition, we're saying that there are biases built into facial recognition that need to be addressed before we use this, and we're not developing this platform any longer.
Yeah. So here's what happens when the big guys drop out of it for moral objections. The laws that prevent it from being made by little guys don't get passed, and the little guys become the big guys, but you don't know their name anymore.
That's funny you should say that. That was actually one of the talking points that were brought up. They said, well, doesn't this just mean somebody else is going to step into the space, probably offer a more racial, more biased solution, a poor implementation of it, but it's going to be what people use because the big guys aren't doing it anymore.
Well, and it's not like the guys who are developing this at Amazon are just going to be like shifted to another team and go, oh, okay, well, I guess all that experience in facial recognition is never going to pay off. No, that team, who is a group of people who all know each other, is going to say, well, hey, if we're not competing with our own company anymore, then we can start spinning our own product off. So they'll spin their own product. It's that the people who have the experience doing this are still going to keep doing it. The problem is that now the big players are off the grid, so no one's going to be paying attention.
See, this is actually why I like Amazon's approach, because I've stated in the past that I think it's a good solution, but it has some evolving to do. And I do feel like we're trying to push it forward too quickly without understanding all the consequences behind it. And
but 1 year isn't a long delay for Amazon. They will continue developing in the meantime.
But that's fine.
And they'll still,
because it's not a development issue that they're addressing; it's an ethics issue that they're addressing. So if you think about it,
it's an employer issue. It's an employee issue they're addressing because both of these companies had employees walk out in protest.
Why are you so negative? Why can't we just be positive?
Because the companies...
They want to talk about it for the next year, you know?
I'll tell you absolutely why. Because both of these companies are publicly traded, and a publicly traded company makes a decision that is going to negatively impact shareholders, then they're held accountable for that legally. So this decision fundamentally can't be a moral decision. It has to make money for the shareholders. Otherwise, it's illegal. If you make a decision that is on a moral stance and it starts losing you money, shareholders can sue you for it. So this isn't going to get us anywhere. This just means that the Facebook facial recognition system, which is the most prevalent and experienced, is going to improve and be sold to the police systems under some different corporate name because that's what they're especially good at. And there's not going to be any legislation saying that facial recognition shouldn't be allowed. I would like to see, instead of companies doing this, I'd like to see companies paying for lobbyists to get facial recognition banned.
See, that's where you and I disagree. It's not going away, right? The genie's out of the bottle. We need to have these big companies with lobbyists who are helping implement the laws and regulations around it to ensure that that these solutions aren't racist, they aren't biased, they are managed correctly. As I've always been saying, this should not be a simple solution for law enforcement. This is something that should have oversight to it, and outside of law enforcement oversight. And I just lost my headset. Hold on one second. Let me get another headset here.
So while Eric's off the air, he's wrong.
Yeah, let me mute.
The facial recognition thing, it's a mess. It's such a mess that any kind of person detection system is fundamentally flawed. Autonomous cars can't see black people as well as they can see white people. Facial recognition systems are inherently biased by the training algorithms, and there's no corrective algorithms to fix them once they've made mistakes. You can't go into a trained machine learning system as a police officer and say, hey, you identified this guy and it was wrong. That data just gets like, hey, you got the guy, thumbs up. It will start biasing itself in a direction, and there will be nothing you can do to stop.
That shocks me. I don't know enough about machine learning, and we've done a couple of interviews now, or talked about a couple of articles in PHP Architect, to the point where I really should dive into it more. I can't believe there's not a way to say, hey, this was a false positive, or
there is in machine learning, but not in machine learning products.
See, I think you're missing my point, Thomas. And I heard most of what you said, although you did cut in and out while I was switching headphones. But
that was on purpose.
This is why we need to focus on the ethics and the process and the oversight of it and how it's being managed. This can't be simply a law enforcement tool. This has to be a human rights tool, and human rights groups need to be involved in the management and implementation of them.
There should be no implementation.
You're talking about a utopia of, all bad things shouldn't be implemented. There should be no guns, right? Nobody should have a gun. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen.
Whoa, buddy.
What?
Nobody here is saying that.
No, but if you talk
just
about
you,
what's safe and that's what's safe. If nobody had guns, if bad guys and good guys didn't have guns, if guns didn't exist, that would be better for everybody. Right? I mean, that's just not a reality. It's not going to happen. That's why we, as U.S. citizens, should be allowed to have guns, because if our government can have guns, we should have guns.
But it's not a constitutionally protected right for a corporation to be able to sell facial recognition tech, for the same reason that right now we can encrypt something to 2048 bits, but you are not allowed to sell a product that encrypts to 2048 bits outside of America. We can make this kind of legislation. We can say that this is wrong and illegal, and corporations have to abide by it. And corporations like Amazon, if you say facial recognition flat out illegal, then they're going to drop the team that's developing it, and the team that does develop it's not going to get any funding.
So you're touching.
And Eric, you're right. You're right that facial recognition is available. People are going to find a way to use it, but it's a matter of how the government and government agencies use it against people.
Exactly.
How are the police going?
Exactly.
But,
this is why there has to be...
But to Thomas's point, if we have lobbyists that help get legislation passed that says the police shouldn't be using it, then it's not an issue, right? Yes, it's still going to exist, and private companies are going to find ways to use it for some things. But
I think that's the
should the police be? But should the police be using it?
Yes, I feel like there are use cases for this in law enforcement. You can't say there aren't. I mean,
I absolutely can.
The first time this finds a missing child that's been kidnapped at Disneyland, that family is going to love the fact that facial recognition was able to identify their child. And
not the police. That's the Disneyland security system.
To Thomas's point, you're absolutely right, Thomas. This is much bigger than just the U.S. This is why we have these global oversight people. I mean, typically it's around laws around war and ethics around war and things like that. That needs to exist in the technology in space. There has to be some sort of World Health Organization or whatever I forget what the war one is, where there are certain laws. What's
the United Nations?
Yeah, United Nations.
Oh, you're talking about the Geneva Convention?
Like the Geneva. Yeah, exactly. We need that. We need that in the tech space. Now,
well, yes, but tear gassing civilians is considered a war crime.
It wasn't tear gas.
It wasn't tear gas. I'm just saying, America's really good at ignoring third-party legislators.
And there are going to be rogue countries that do that. But if you have the support of the big countries, you have that firepower.
But I think if we've learned anything over the last 3 weeks, America is one of those rogue countries.
Okay. I'm not going to argue
We
with you on that because I can't. But
right.
yeah,
That's the problem, is that I've been reading foreign coverage of what's going on here in America, and everyone is like, "Oh my God, America's having a civil war," and Americans are like, "No, we're not.
we're just
We're
really
just
bad.
we just built a system that is now so self-sustaining that we have to tear it down to fix it."
Yep, and
But
that's exactly right. And
other countries firmly believe that we're in the middle of a civil war.
yeah, not yet. Um, it's funny because there was the whole splitting hairs of was it tear gas, is a pepper bullets considered tear gas, and I love the response of one of the uh, panelists who was discussing this. He was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if you want to call it tear gas or not tear gas. We're in the middle of a pandemic that's spread by people coughing and rubbing their eyes and stuff, and our government are using weapons against our citizens that causes them to do that in the middle of a pandemic. I'm like, oh,
Well,
shit, that's a good point.
the scariest quote that I heard this week was from the police, the federal police unit
Shitter.
that was in Washington. Did you hear about these guys?
The ones with no badges or anything.
Yeah, so they're a member of the federal police force, which does not have the authority to arrest people, but does have the authority to shoot them.
Are you kidding? All right, I don't want to get
That
into
was
politics,
that
man.
was as it was. This isn't politics. That was as it was described by a member of the federal police force. Is we don't have the authority to arrest, but we have the authority to shoot.
All right,
So
I
totally crazy. I mean, that stuff can get banned too. But yeah, we absolutely have the power as American citizens to vote for facial recognition being banned by use in law enforcement.
should be banned from
Whether or
use as
not,
well. That's not what I'm. That's not what I'm suggesting. It shouldn't be
that's what
banned
I'm
from.
suggesting.
It's going to get used. It's going to get used in law enforcement. We need oversight committees on how it's used and the legal ramifications of that. Because right now, law enforcement is taking that initiative. Law enforcement is defining to the courts, hey, this person, we use facial recognition to identify him, so it's a closed case. We can't allow that to happen. We need to have civil liberty groups involved in that process who can have oversight. And to your point, this is not a U.S. thing. This has got to be a global thing.
Yeah, but I also don't believe that global legislative bodies have any teeth.
You might be right. You might be right. And yeah. So I did have
Yeah,
another article I wanted to share with you and John, see if either one of you guys had any opinion of, because I thought,
I know what it
which one
is.
do you think it is?
Brave,
No, it wasn't Brave. You want to talk about Brave?
kinda.
All right, all right. I'll do Brave first. So,
So,
if you haven't been a longtime listener of the show, there was about a stint of I don't know if it was a full year, but a solid 6 to 8 months that I was a Brave user. And Brave is the implementation of the Chromium platform that
no,
has
Mozilla.
no, it's Chrome.
Is it?
Yeah, it's Chrome. And it's implementation of the Chrome platform that boasted about having security first, but it also was coming up with this way to monetize, so content developers could monetize their content. Uh, and there was like some Bitcoin piece of it and all this stuff.
Brave coin.
Yeah, yeah. So Gizmodo, um, and for the record, I didn't stop using it for any reason except to I started really kind of getting behind Firefox and the message of Firefox and um, all that. So I started using Firefox for that very reason. There's some people in the PHP community who work for Mozilla, so I just wanted to support Firefox. So I didn't leave Brave for any other reason than to support Firefox. But Thomas has always been a proponent of uh, Opponent.
Not proponent.
Yeah.
Opponent. Yeah.
Of
I was gonna
Brave.
say I don't remember him ever saying he wanted to.
Nope.
He liked it.
He's
I
never
have
been a
always
fan
been
of it.
against it,
So
which is
I'll
why I
let you
tried to
have your
spin my
moment
own
in the
version.
sun here, Thomas.
Yeah, people found out that that certain affiliate links to Bitcoin systems were getting the reference numbers overwritten in
See,
Brave.
I don't think they ever wrote any, did they? It was more if you just went to a an exchange that didn't have an affiliate link, they added theirs. I don't think they didn't take anybody's.
Yeah, I think John is correct. I think it was just exactly what John said. If there wasn't
Okay,
one
so
defined, they injected theirs.
well, so yeah, that's what somebody noticed. Uh, Again, it's just about what you notice. It's the things that you don't notice that make them the most money. This is
Yeah.
this is a venture
Fair.
capital attempt to make money off of people's web browsing while telling them it's safe and secure and private. And they weren't making enough money, so they threw in a reference number when you logged into Binance so that you could get any trade you made would give them 50% of your trade commissions. So, I mean, they did what they said they wouldn't, but of course they were gonna.
It was a fuzzy detail, but yeah, you're right, and it did make me feel better about the fact that I wasn't using them. I'll grant you that. I saw that. I'm like, oh, Thomas is good. I feel like I had to put it on my Trello board before you put it on yours.
I wasn't, because Brave doesn't deserve attention.
But
That's the issue to me, is that they are a microcosm of users, and I think anyone who knows security and privacy already saw the writings in the sand and just said, no, this is
Google has to be doing
obvious.
the same thing, don't they?
Hmm?
Oh, they're way worse.
Yeah, I mean
Who?
they got to be doing the same thing. Google
Oh,
or any search engine, any browser for that matter that has control over what they're when you click on something, where you go
Well, so here's the thing. If I
has that
type
ability.
if I type in this is how Google works. If I type Home Depot into Google search, I'll get, more often than not, a sponsored link to the homedepot.com website, and then the homedepot.com website natural link below that.
Right.
And that's because Google won a lawsuit that said that squatting on a domain name in a search is not anti-competitive. So people who are competing with your business can have AdWords that directly match the name of your business,
Uh-huh.
and that's not a conflict of interest to anybody. That's not a conflict of interest to Google. That's perfectly fair business, whatever. Um, so now they send emails out to big domain holders saying, hey, did you know that 30% of click-throughs when someone searches for Home Depot go to Lowe's? And they extort money out of you for it. They say, yeah, all you got to do is pay $4,000, and now you'll always come up first when someone types Home Depot. So
It's
Google's
a little bit different, but yeah.
a little bit different, but it's done this. It's the same pattern of behaviors.
But still, I mean, there are so many affiliate programs out there. I'd be shocked if Google isn't injecting their own affiliate code in somewhere.
No, they won't do that.
No? You
No,
don't
no.
think?
Google's too big to have that lawsuit, because that lawsuit could split the company. That could be a lawsuit where someone says, I don't have a choice of search engine, and the search engine is injecting affiliate codes. There are people who make all of their money off of getting their affiliate codes into Google searches.
Mm-hmm.
That group of people has enough money to really throw a wrench in things for Google.
Yeah, it makes sense. That would be a very bad competition thing.
Yeah, it would directly compete with the target objective of a search engine, which is besides ads,
Show
objective
relevant.
results. Objective results.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's but really they're both doing the same thing. They're trying to maximize monetization of people who are using the system. And any web browser right now that needs funding is going to be doing that in one way or another.
Hmm.
Via either quote unquote anonymous usage statistics, which is Firefox's thing, or Chrome, which defaults everything to Google and has privacy policies that support Google's privacy policies. It's all a mess, man.
All right, so like I said, that's not even what I wanted to share with you. I was actually surprised. No, I wasn't surprised. I should have known that. So I wanted to share with you this Guardian article where Twitter is looking to roll out a new system or a new feature. It's not out for everybody now, but if it detects, if I'm understanding the article correctly, if it detects that you're retweeting a tweet with a link in it and you haven't visited that link, supposedly it's going to throw up some warning saying sharing your article can spark conversation, so you may want to read it before you tweet it. That's down. Is that on the
That,
screen?
that yeah, that's fantastic.
Right. That's what I
I
thought. I'm
mean,
like, yeah, that's great.
it isn't, it is and it isn't. Like I share a lot of, I'll retweet things from people I trust,
Mm-hmm.
or not necessarily political, but just in the PHP community. Like, hey, somebody says something positive or anything about a feature, and they may link to an article to get more information,
Mm-hmm.
and I may just retweet it to help spread the word, and I haven't clicked on that link.
Mm-hmm.
Here's
So I see
you're
pros and cons to it.
gonna get me going all over again. My nose, so angry, my nose is running. Here's the thing, is that it is addressing the symptom but not the cause.
The symptom, not the cause. Okay, that's a fair statement, but they can't address the
People,
cause.
oh, they could. People are sharing things that have a headline that reflects favorably on their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And other people are reading the headline and resharing it because it reflects favorably on their opinion. And Time Magazine has experimented in this by having headlines that reflect people's opinions, and then the first line of the article is saying this headline is incorrect. I'm not sure if you remember this one, but a while ago, I believe Nat Geo had an article. The headline was "Is Evolution Wrong?" And when you go to that was the cover of the magazine. Is evolution wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go, it says go to page 25 to find out. And you go to page 25, and the whole page is taken up by the text "no," just the word "no."
Mm-hmm.
You could do that again. There's subreddits that are based off of things called "Ate the Onion," people reposting Onion articles
Oh,
without reading them and understanding their satire.
or yeah, or even knowing that the Onion's not real news.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the issue, is that headlines right now are entirely inflammatory, not representative of the material, and not written by the author of the article. I don't know if people know this, but in journalism,
But
the editor writes the headline, not the writer of the article.
yeah, but again, I think that's putting too much on the shoulders of these services like Twitter to police that,
No,
right? I think this
don't police it. Let the people police it. Let people write the headline that they want to write, and when you have an article posted, you get one of 10 headlines
mm,
that's written by the people who read the article.
So it's funny. They even cite in this article, which is it's like a meta thing. It's like I don't know who to trust anymore. But they even cited that a less academically sound but more telling was an article that was posted same year with the headline "Study: 70% of Facebook users only read the headline of science stories before commenting." And it says the fake news site the fake news website The Science Post was ranked racked up a healthy 127,000 shares for this article, that which is almost entirely Lorman Ipsum filler text. So they were like proving their point that people don't actually click on the article to see what it says. They just reshare the
Yeah,
headline.
and this is the problem with partisan journalism right now, is that the headline is what everyone's paying attention to, not the content.
But see, the next article, and again, I think this speaks to the positive of what Twitter's doing. Twitter says the solution is not to ban such retweets, but to inject friction into the process. So, I mean, I get that.
I
It's like, they can't,
people
they
people
can't.
sign people sign 400-page end user license agreements. This won't. I know the people that this is targeted at. I'm friends with them, but I have them muted on Facebook. They don't care that they're being told that they're a shill for Fox News. They don't care that they're being told, hey, you look like a dummy by sharing something without knowing what it says. They care that the headline confirms what they believe. So if that comment was public, if you posted something without reading the link and it had a comment below your tweet that said this person's an idiot and doesn't read their own source material, maybe you'll create the friction you need.
You're right, and it doesn't matter even if you show that the stuff they shared is false,
Right,
or
even if it's wrong.
you could you show them you show them all the proof that they're sharing bad stuff, and they don't care.
Yeah,
I have, I have
the
family
person
members that do that, and it drives me nuts.
the person on my Facebook feed who immediately comes to mind is a guy who constantly says CNN is fake news and then shares things that are blatantly false. And when you correct him, he says, "What's your point?" Which I've discovered is the ultimate troll response.
Mhm.
When you tell someone that they are factually wrong and they say, "What's your point?" you are completely disarmed. So telling people from the onset that they're making an uneducated decision or to post something is not going to stop these people. They pride themselves specifically on uneducated decisions, especially on social media. I, I commend Twitter for trying, but try harder. Ban more people. If people start sharing false information, ban them for a week and say, like, listen, as a platform, can't have things that are blatantly false perpetrated across the platform. The way that stuff gets shared is by people in these tight circles just breaking outside of their circle a little to reshare something that gets shared throughout the circle.
Mhm.
So punish the circles that consistently produce false information. Punish the people who originate false information. People don't go into an image before they reshare it to Photoshop it so that it has a slightly different MD5 checksum. Just do an MD5 on all the images. And when something is blatantly wrong or racist, say, hey, if you post this, you're going to get bumped for an hour. And then we're going to tell your friends you got banned for an hour for sharing something that was blatantly false and not doing your due diligence to check it.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one though. I mean, it's
Sure, but if it was my platform, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
yeah,
I'm
because
not I'm not the
you
owner of
think you're
Twitter.
always right, and you think you always know the truth, but everybody's truth isn't the same. And
So fuck them, go to a different platform.
I
If
think
they're
it's more
okay with lying.
if it's not subjective, if you can objectively prove that what's being shared is false, then Thomas has a
Hell,
point.
you could even warn people and say, by sharing this, which has been proven objectively not true, you might get banned. And then make sure that, and then wait for them to share it. And if they share it, ban them for an hour, ban them for a day. Having someone
I
kicked
think
off social
personally
media
we
for a
should
couple
have it.
hours
We
is a
should have
good
it.
slap on the
We
wrist.
should have it launch their camera, take a picture of them, and do facial recognition on it, and throw them in jail because of it. There you
Well, that
go.
sounds like communism.
I wrapped our whole story into one thing there. We're good. Okay. All right. We are definitely running along today, and this is the problem. Can you believe this is episode 194? We're almost at 200, and
I was gonna say,
we still talk for over an hour every week. And for those of you on the audio podcast, I don't know how long it will go on today, but for those of you on the audio podcast, you don't get to appreciate our banter and our talking after the show because we typically keep the stream going for a solid 5-10 minutes after the show's over, and that can completely go off the rails.
Where we complain about all the people that aren't listening live.
Exactly.
that is a Patreon benefit.
And subscribe because I now want a silver YouTube button hanging on my wall. I mean, we're only 900,000 and 999
999,000.
away from it. Matter of fact, my little thing should show us we were up to like 150 Facebook subscribers. So we've got a little ground to make. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Oh, I shared with I'll say it. See, I said it now. I shared with John this week. My daughter, one of my daughters, went viral on TikTok this week, and she's beside herself. Like we're talking like a few million views of this one video, and her followers. She went from like having like 100 followers to like 1 million followers, and she's had quite the TikTok week, and she's loving it. So I need to get something up here before she gets something, because she's actually being much more successful at this than I am, and I don't understand why. Okay,
Obviously, you haven't seen TikTok then.
this is it. We're gonna wrap this up. Episode 194. I appreciate you listening to us. That's it. I'm Eric.
I'm John.
I'm Tom.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
All right, guys.
You know, John, you have very punk rock hair right now.
Yeah, he does.
Hey, thanks.
But your eyelids completely give you away
What do you mean?
because you are falling asleep on the podcast.
Oh.
That is not very punk rock.
I am not falling asleep on the podcast.
Yeah, I don't.
Who's
I
tired?
gotta share with you my kids' TikTok link, Thomas. I shared it with John. But yeah, she woke up one morning and she's like, I had to turn off my phone. My notifications kept going off, and I turned and I just,
You were like, yeah, me too. It's all
She's
the
like-
time.
I turned it on this morning, and I had like 1 million subscribers on TikTok. I'm like, what did you do?
Stop your locals.
Oh yeah, thanks. I'm like, what did you show? It was a very innocent video here. Let me stop my locals and I'll share it with you, Tom.
Well, all her stuff is so cute. I have her on Facebook.
Well, and that's the whole thing is she's always tried to hide her TikTok from her online presence. Like she doesn't want anybody knowing, like making that connection. So she doesn't actually do that. I'm gonna stop sharing to try to get some cycles back here.
She says, okay, my mom follows me now.
Come on, sharing. Stop fucking sharing. Jesus Christ. All right,
While you're pulling that up, I'm going to use the restroom.
I actually gotta go to John's feed here and find it.
I could share it if that's what you want.
Yeah.
Got it right here.
Can you just share that?
Do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, you didn't bring up the Patreons, did you?
Oh, god damn it. And Thomas,
He mentioned them too.
Thomas even talked about him.
Yeah.
Here, I'll bring up the slide for people still watching the stream. I tell you, this OBS, this Streamlabs OBS is just painful. It's painful. I'm gonna have to go back to just the open source OBS. And if you're on the live stream, I don't think anybody's still on the live stream. If anybody's still in the live, oh, it says 5 people are still in the live stream. Um, Here, I'll share it. I'll share my browser. Cause I told my kid, I promised my kid I wouldn't post her stuff. Although she's got like 1 million people watching it now, so I really don't.
28,000 followers.
28,000.
Yeah.
How many views does the cow have now?
2.4 million.
Really? 2. She went over 1 million. Damn. Yeah. It's not
2.4 million views, 363,000 likes.
So Thomas,
492.
the link is in Slack. Share here. Yeah, there you go. If anybody's interested, that's the you see the link there on that stream if anybody's interested. But so it's empty. You can see the 2.4 million views one is the one that that started it off, and it's cute.
You are muted, Thomas.
I can't hear her if you're talking, so don't talk.
Sorry.
It's just a TikTok video.
How do you rewind it?
You don't.
I don't know.
You wait for it to start over. Or exit the video and go back to it.
Wow, no, I have to like pull the link up again because the URL changed.
Really?
Yeah.
Just go to the next video and then come back. Right arrow, left arrow.
Shh.
Why are we sitting here watching them listen? We are accommodating. It's a TikTok video. You're not missing anything.
Are you back with us, Thomas?
It restarted like without being over.
No, that's TikTok.
It was over.
Yeah, that's TikTok, man. That's how it works. It's never.
Why?
Man, I don't know. But over 2 million views on the damn thing. That's more than I've ever gotten on any of my tweets. The most.
That's more than you've gotten on many of the sites you've built.
Ouch. Shut it.
Well, but me too. Today.
Yeah.
I got this one site I built that's got like lots of visitors. Oh man, I was making a push today for Perla.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Jose, hey, I'm pushing this out. He says, oh, does that fix the scene issue? And I was like, what scene issue? He's like, yo, you pushed out a half hour ago, and it's been throwing an issue on every single scene in Bugsnag. And I'm like, you mean the whole site's down? He's like, yeah, the whole site's down. I thought you knew. I pulled up Bugsnag. Let me see what the 1 day number. In that half an hour, it threw 5,000 events among 837 users.
Hey guys, still talking to us in chat. I see you. Appreciate it. Was that your whole fear of not being a good developer? Is that when that kicked in?
No, that was last week. I was just dealing with all these interviews and just trying to explain my capabilities to people. It's never pleasant.
Oh, I'm terrible. I say all the time, I had to start a company so I could be hired as a developer because I would never hire me. I don't think anybody would ever hire me as a developer.
Well, and you guys, we have a lot of international listeners. Mm-hmm. So like sometimes at 3 a.m, I'll get a new person adding me on Twitter. And like this particular 3 a.m, I was just gonna respond after they added me. Like, man, somebody else, not me, not tonight. This this isn't good for you. Doesn't help you out at all. I barely tweet. I don't know what I'm doing.
I know I gotta get back into Twitter. I actually sent a tweet earlier this week or last week. Last week I sent a tweet that got a little traction. Matter of fact, somebody replied to it as late as today. The whole me pleading with package developers when they add a migration to their package to prefix their tables so they don't overwrite existing tables. And I actually got a lot of feedback from that one.
I gotta tweet more just out of like, I don't know,
What did John say?
personal well-being.
John tweeted, "All I have are heavyweight controllers that sumo wrestling." What is...
Yeah, you responded to it.
I didn't respond to that. That's Brian Johnson.
Oh, you're not Brian?
I'm not Brian. Oh man.
Never pay attention to me.
I always. You were the first tweet that came up when I went to Twitter. That's how much attention I pay to you. I actually get notifications when you tweet. Matter of fact, that's probably why.
I pulled up Twitter to see how many people were following me when I said right after I said that.
Uh-huh.
And I pulled it up, and the first thing it says is a quote from me from 5 seconds ago saying, tweeted 3 seconds ago. And I was like, what the hell? Am I being transcribed in real time?
Man, I can't wait to get.
How do you find out how many followers you have?
You got to click on your profile. So
Wait, do I have a blue check mark?
I still follow more people than follow me. So I follow. Are you verified?
Am I?
No, you're not. Stop it.
There's no way.
I'm gonna be pissed if you're verified and I'm not. What are you? The real write-out or real write-out, right?
At real write-out.
You have to.
I'm not.
No, you have to apply for
that.
that.
Implied I was. I clicked at my name at the bottom left.
Hold on, I'm still typing. You can't talk to me while I'm typing on this new keyboard. Go ahead.
You have 209. You have 209 followers.
That's not bad for someone who does no outreach.
I've got to stay on my Twitter account. I enjoy Twitter. I know people don't.
I have 751.
Oh, you're approaching 1,000, man.
I think I used to be a lot higher.
Did you see the thing about Jeff Bezos' Twitter?
No. What about Jeff Bezos?
I don't know if this is true. I have to make sure first. Yeah, it is.
What?
Jeff Bezos is following one person. It's his ex-wife, and she's not following him back. That is... Woo!
I have an issue with that. Like these big wigs who like follow like just 2 or 3 people, but they have like 3 million people following them. I'm like, I don't know. It's just like give some people a follow. I mean, clearly you don't use Twitter, so it doesn't hurt you to follow people. And
that is, I read this 2 days ago, and it's still true. So that's just like, that is so heartbreaking. It's especially heartbreaking because he's the richest man in the world, and the only person he follows on Twitter is his ex-wife, and she doesn't follow him back. That is like, that's a sentence that could start the next version of The Great Gatsby. Right? Isn't that The Great Gatsby in one tweet?
Pretty much.
I gotta tweet that.
All right.
I'm gonna write that.
I'm stopping the stream. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight.
Thanks everyone.
Oh, here you go. I'm not a good coder. I'm just persistent.
What?
Roger in chat.
I see it now.
A good coder.
Oh, I feel that one.
Right. That's me, man. Jesus. I just don't give up.